Hi boys and girls and everyone at St Thomas Cantaloupe. It's great to be joining with you today for your collective worship this week. And I hope you've had a really good Christmas and New Year, a good break. Maybe you enjoyed eating lots of food and chocolate. Maybe you had some nice presents, or you were able to see some family and friends. So hopefully you've enjoyed your Christmas holidays, but it's good to be back, isn't it? It's good to be back seeing friends, and it's good to be joining you, as I said. You might recognise my face, remember me from visiting just before Christmas. Remember, my name's Heather, and I'm going to be sharing some of the collective worships with you over the coming weeks. So hopefully they're going to be really fun. We're going to have a good time. And obviously, while I can't come into school and see all your faces in person, we're going to be sending you some videos over the coming weeks. And I want to share with you a story from the Bible. And this story starts with a guy, an old man with grey hair, who had a walking stick, called Simeon. And Simeon loved God. Simeon trusted God, he prayed to God, and he considered God to be his friend. And he remembered that over years and years and years, God had promised his people a special king, a ruler, a rescuer, who was going to be born as a baby and was going to be his son. And this promise, God had started promising this thousands of years ago, and people had been waiting and waiting many years for this promise to come true. And we fast forward a bit and we get to Simeon. And Simeon had been waiting as well, and he knew he was getting old, and he really wanted to see and to meet this king, this rescuer that God had promised, that was going to be born as a baby on earth. Now I wonder, can you think who this baby might be? Who might this special king be? Who do you think? That's right, it's Jesus. And we remember it Christmas, don't we? We've just thought about it and celebrated it at Christmas, that Jesus was born as a baby, as a king, as God's son. And can you remember some people from the story that we hear at Christmas? What happened? Who was visited by some angels? Who was visited by some angels? That's right, the shepherds were visited by some angels, weren't they? And when they heard what had happened, when they heard that God's promised king had been born, they were so excited. Show me your excited faces. They were so excited that they wanted to tell everyone what had happened. They wanted to go and see the baby for themselves, and they wanted to share it with everyone else. But do you think they could text someone? No. Do you think they could call someone up on the phone? No. How about email? No, they couldn't do any of that, could they? But what they could do is tell people that they saw. But this would take a while to tell everyone, wouldn't it? And Simeon, remember, he's waiting for this baby king to be born. Well, he wouldn't find out very quickly, would he? But in the end, Simeon heard from God that he should go to the temple to worship him one day. So Simeon got up and he went along to the temple. He wasn't sure why, but he just knew that God wanted him to go to the temple. And while he was there, a man and a woman walked in carrying a baby. Now this man and woman were Joseph and Mary, and this baby was Jesus. And they were bringing Jesus to the temple to give thanks to God for their baby, for Jesus. They were giving thanks to God and dedicating Jesus in the temple. And as they walked past Simeon, Simeon knew this is God's son. This is God's promised king, this baby, this rescuer. And he went up to Mary and Joseph and he said, look, this is who I think it is. This is Jesus, isn't it? You're Mary and Joseph. And he took Jesus in his arms and he gave thanks and praised God for Jesus, for sending his rescuer, for sending his king. But there was someone else at the temple. There was a lady at the temple called Anna. And Anna was an old woman as well, and she was also looking forward to this promised king. Couldn't wait to meet him and thought that she would die before the baby was born. But she overheard the conversation between Simeon, between Mary and Joseph. And she went over and she too gave thanks and said, "This is God's son. This is God's promised rescuer," and gave thanks and praised God for him as well. Now, Simeon and Anna were old, weren't they? And they didn't know that actually God's promise was going to happen in their lifetime, because this promise had been going on for many, many years. And sometimes we can be promised things, can't we? Maybe from our mum or dad, or whoever looks after us at home. We might be promised some chocolate when we get home if we tidy our room. And we might not get that chocolate straight away. But we trust our parents, don't we? We trust that they will actually keep their promises. And that's the same with God. God always keeps his promises. He always promises to look after us. Even when things aren't going right, we can still be encouraged. We can still have faith and remember God's promises, because he always keeps them. It might not be when we think it's going to be. It might be in years to come. We might have to wait a while. Just like Simeon and Anna had to do. They had to wait quite a long time, didn't they, for God to keep his promise. But actually, we know that God will keep his promise to us. And that can really help us in life. And he promises, in the Bible, God promises that he will return one day. That Jesus will return to earth. And we don't know when that will be. But when he does, he will make all things right. There will be no more crying, no more pain, no more suffering in the world. We don't know when that will be, but we can trust, just like Simeon and Anna did, that God will keep his promises to us, just as he did to them.